this evening I just want to talk a little bit, it's a bit of an introduction to what is mindfulness, and we'll do a little bit of a practical thing as well. So if there's any questions along the way, just shoot your hand up. Feel free to ask and interrupt at any point. If you've got any questions, I'll try and answer them. I don't have all the answers, and I probably never will, but I'll just speak from my experience and stuff that maybe I've read and learnt along the way. But most of it will be from my experience, and which, yeah. I had this all set up to go on a slide, had some beautiful pictures, so can you see that? Some monkeys in a tree screaming. Because that is what it felt like in my head for years, just like that. It's called the monkey mind. They say your mind just goes nuts, and there's just this constant chattering happening up there, and there's this constant, you know, you're thinking about this, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, thinking about what you've got to deal with, and you just realize that you're just living this life of just chasing some, you know, different things, and you realize, oh man, this is just, it's a mess. And there was times when your mind was just screaming. I remember last February when it was one of the last sessions I came with you guys, we were out at Caxton Street doing the one of the sessions, day-long sessions. I remember coming there and we were playing one of the games, and I was like in the throes of all the creditors calling. My phone was running hot. I think I probably was in the thing for about 2 hours all up out of the 8-hour day, and half an hour of that was for lunch. So I was just in and out of the whole thing on the phone, just trying to appease people, chasing money and threatening all kinds of legal action. And so in the midst of all that, your mind's racing. And I remember we started this game, the 4-foot game, and I remember getting instructions to the game and looking at it and thinking, I can't even read this. It just did not make sense. I just could not even make sense of the instructions. And I thought, oh, look, I'll just try this out. So I'd only been sort of meditating, 6-9 months or something like that, not that long. And so I thought, I'll give it a go. I'll try and bring myself to a place of calm and you know, calm myself down a bit, because literally just going off the phone to 3 or 4 people just chasing money, you know, all kinds of things going wrong. And so I thought, well, where do I go? So I went into the toilets, shut the cubicle, and just sat down, and just for 2 minutes just breathed in deep, and just sort of went to, you know, it's just that practice of mindfulness. It's just like habitually just came to that place. It was amazing how quickly that those monkeys just sort of disappeared, and that peace and that calm came into the mind. And all of a sudden I read it. All right, I know what to do now. Came up with a strategy, trialed it, boom, done, finished. And was one of the winners of the comp. And just from that, for me, it was like amazing how you can come back from a place like that where your mind's just racing. You know, you feel like there's 100 monkeys running up there having a party. And that's, yeah, they call it the monkey mind, and it's for a reason. It's amazing, these guys in the States, they did this research project about 8-10 years ago, where they hooked up all these people with apps, where they'd actually, or with people with iPhones, so they'd just ping them a message saying, okay, what are you doing right now? Like, are you on task, or is your mind wandering? Or you're off task or on task, basically? And how are you feeling? Like pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And so it's just very simple. So they just had to respond immediately to that. There's a really quick thing, so it got pinged on their phone, they had to respond immediately. If at that point in time they were on task, doing whatever they were meant to be doing, whether they were working, whatever they were meant to be doing, I think it was only sex where they weren't allowed to answer some things, so they were allowed to ignore it. So, hang on, love. How are you doing? So basically from that they were able to, they come up with some interesting data, and just one of them was that, well, what do you think? How much of the time do you think your mind is wandering just all around the shop? Like
most of the time.
Most of the time?
95%.
95%?
Let's go with that.
And she's working for you.
At least I recognise it.
True, very good. So, Rob doesn't give a shit though.
You know.
So actually what they found out was about half the time. Half the time your mind is just wandering, doing, wherever it is, thinking about the future, past, and they say whether the thoughts were pleasant or unpleasant. And then, so that, they had to comment whether the thoughts were pleasant or unpleasant. And then from there they had to, come on in, plenty of room.
Down front.
It's good because we need you guys to
Just
do
means
something
you're up
later.
next.
So basically from that wandering mind, they then were able to ascertain that half the time, on average, the mind was wandering, doing everything else but being on task. And but the interesting thing about it was, every time their mind was wandering, most of the time their mind was wandering, the feelings they felt were unpleasant or unhappiness. And so these guys then went on to write a paper in the Science Journal, submitting their research, and it's called "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind." And it's that, what they say is that pure pursuit of happiness is just, it's so rampant now. People are looking for that, trying to be happy, and they're trying to find it in all kinds of things. But when they break it down, if you can control the mind, master the mind, it's amazing what you can achieve. So very, very strongly the research suggests that the wandering mind caused a lot of unhappiness, and it didn't matter whether the thoughts you were thinking were pleasant or unpleasant. There wasn't that sense of, because you weren't on task, you weren't on focus, you weren't on purpose. So mindfulness. Anyone care to have a stab at what they think it is, what it's about, experienced it? Who's dabbled in a bit of mindfulness, a bit of meditation? So you got a bit of an idea what it is. How would you summarize it? Like, how would you sort of describe it if you were to describe it?
For me, it's sort of just being in your body, just existing for a second. That's about it. Being free of thought, just letting your bullshit subside for a second and just be.
Yeah. It's good. Anyone else want to add to that?
Just being present.
Yeah.
And just like understanding what's happening around you as well, and almost looking at yourself as like a bird, like looking down on yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, an interesting way to look at it. That you sort of become a bit of an observer. Not so much. You're not caught up in that sort of whole sort of process of the thoughts and the stuff that's happening. You're actually sort of stepping back and you're the observer, and you're and looking at it from a distance. So basically, mindfulness, I suppose it's a personal experience, and for me, like I've read quite a few books, doing all these lectures and stuff, and they're throwing around sort of, this sort of explains or describes mindfulness, and I suppose it's a very personal thing at the end of the day. But there are a few sort of key factors that I sort of can really relate to, and it's talking a lot about you bringing your attention and awareness to the totality of your present experience. It's like what you were saying, and you're just being present. You're just aware of where you're at and what you're doing at that point in time. And the thing is, we go through all the days, all our days, we just go through this constant thing of, what's going on, what's happening. So it's amazing how you can sort of get stuck in those ruts. You're just doing, it's like autopilot, you're just running on autopilot. So many things, you're just doing it and you're not even aware of it. Just from your little day-to-day things to the big things, it doesn't matter. You're so often, you're just not present in what you're doing. You're not aware of what's going on, not what's happening. And when your thoughts are scattered and they're wandering and that, like even this afternoon I got home and my daughter was there to greet me, and we're heading off to LA in the morning, and so she's all excited and she's telling me she just went to the hairdressers and got it. And I was just like, she was talking to me, but after about 5 minutes I realized, shit, I'm not really present with her. I'm just sort of, yeah, that's good, nice, hair looks great, sweetie. And I was getting ready, I had to have a shower and get changed and all that sort of jazz, and so I had to sort of stop and think, hey, I need to be present, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, hear what she's got to say and really acknowledge her being there. And And that's what I love about the mindfulness practice. It's even when things, you're not being mindful, you actually become aware that you're not present. That's the beauty of it, that's the power of it. And then you have there's that space there where you can choose what you do. Do you continue in that, or do you actually stop and say, hey, so we talk and I said, look, sweetie, I'm sorry, I've got to go, I need to get ready, and that's fine, because I gave her my full attention there for a little bit, heard what she had to say, was like, okay, it's fine. The other thing about mindfulness they talk about is approaching mindfulness with this real sense of curiosity and also a real sense of non-judgment, because when you do that, it's amazing how, like, you're going to have lots of thoughts come up, all this sort of stuff, and this will make a little bit more sense. We'll do a few little practices together, and just to get you into that sort of mode, so you'll know what's happening. But when you approach it, you'll find out when you sit and you do a little guided meditation, your mind will just go all over the shop, and it's like, it's interesting. I'm thinking about that. Very interesting. Got to do the shopping, right? You just sort of let those thoughts go, and you don't judge yourself. Like, it's so easy to think, oh man, my mind's just, I can't stop. The amount of people I talk to, they say, oh, what? I had this guy at one of my suppliers. He's 70 years old and he's still in business. He goes, so why you look so content? What's going on? I knew from 3 years ago to now, what's happened? And I said, this is what I'm doing. And he goes, no, I can't do meditation. My mind's just racing all the time. I said, that's why you do it. So it's that whole thing is like, oh, I can't do it because my mind's, I can't stand still. Actually, the research they're showing is that this has been so beneficial for kids and adults with ADD. Like, I just listened to a podcast a few weeks back, and this lady, she's a psychologist, and she released a book, and she grew up with ADD and still has it. And she says it's like all of a sudden just turned her life around. So now she brings the mindfulness into her psychology practice, and she works with kids and sort of teens and sort of a bit older with ADD, and just gives them, they're allowed to have that space, because what's happening in their brains, the mindfulness practice just incredibly sort of gels and works with it. So Sam Harris, in his book, he writes this brilliant little line. He says, the reality of your life is always now. So that's where the reality is. The reality is not in the future, it's not in the past. That's gone, and the way you construct the past is probably not how it happened anyway. You're sort of already chopped and changed it, make yourself feel good and look good, and you've had an argument with someone, and this is exactly what's happened. Like, it's amazing when, if you argue with your spouse or your partner or a friend or a business partner or whoever, you've both got a different story to tell of what happened there, and you're coming at it with a different angle. And but the thing is, at the end of the day, the reality is only now. That's all we have. And it's only now, and if we get caught up in the past, or we're too caught into the future, you're just missing this moment, and that's all we have. And that's where mindfulness is, just that ability to just be present with where you are, doing whatever you're doing at this point in time. And so it's not the absence of, like I said this before, it's not the absence of the stress and the challenges of life, challenges of business that come at you. It's actually being able to relate to them, and being aware of them and knowing that they're there, but not really identifying with them. You're not identifying, it's that constant thing, I'm so stressed, I'm hopeless at this and that. So you start to identify and take that on, and that's what really screws you over at the end of the day. So it's funny when in the research that I'm reading at, and a lot of the stuff that I'm reading about, there's lots of articles, especially in the US. It's become a bit of a big business over there. Apparently, it's already a multi-billion-dollar business. Do you know that Gary? Is it Gary V? Yeah. So he was on one of these podcasts done by. There's a podcast called 10% Happier. It's really good, actually. It's all about mindfulness. This CNN anchor, Dan Harris, he had a bit of a freak out. And about 7-8 years ago, and then someone got him onto mindfulness, and he sort of turned his life around quite dramatically. And so he does a podcast, weekly podcast, and he has lots of guests on there. And he had Gary V on there, who's not a meditator, but he's investing in the next multi-billion-dollar health industry. So for him, he just sees it an investment, And in the US, like magazines, there's articles all the time, and one there's like mindfulness, your way to weight loss or whatever, something like that. There's all, it's seriously, it's become this, commodity now that sort of gets bartered and exchanged, and that's the nature of humans, I suppose. We try and monetize everything and get a lot of wealth out of everything, and unfortunately, it's another industry that's been bastardized. That's my take on it. It's one of my things that I have to deal with. If you want to go monetize it, that's fine. It's your choice. It's cool. We'll still be friends. But in saying that, there is a lot of benefits. They say there are a lot of benefits, and this is coming from research. There's a lot of shit research out there, but there's a lot of good research as well. Like, you look at how much research there is about exercise and health and exercise in your heart and all that sort of stuff. There's just tens of thousands of papers, and they're all this research sort of creates this body of knowledge that, okay, you exercise, it's good for you, basically, at the end of the day. But now more and more, the research is coming out. I'm saying that mindfulness, you do it, it's going to be good for you. And they're talking about like reducing pain, like physical and emotional pain, anxiety, depression, and stress. I mean, I tell you what, stress. Who faces stress? Stress today? Yeah. Every day. We face it, especially as business owners. It's this whole new level of stress. I had to sort of decide whether we fire someone or keep them on today. We sort of had a big meeting. All right, do we keep them on or do we let them go? Things like that. You've got all this stuff happening. People coming at you, bombarding you with all kinds of stuff, and that stress builds and builds and builds. And you've got to get to a place where you can sort of manage that. And there's more and more evidence that mindfulness practice can help you deal with that. There's done research that I was reading where they did it. There's actually a whole course. There's John Kabat-Zinn, he's designed this course called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR. You may have heard about it. If you ever come across it and you want to do it, it's probably worthwhile doing. It's pretty full on, pretty intense, but the results they're getting are phenomenal out of it. It's like incredible results. Like, they're doing a lot of research that's happening is based around that whole program. And one of them that I read was a group of people that were just getting them to fill out a sort of survey, that do a meditation in the morning. And then it was just more about their feeling, how they felt by the end of the day, how they sort of were able to deal with all the stuff that got thrown at them throughout the day. And hands down, there's a noticeable difference between their experience in dealing with the day to when not doing it. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And not only that, they improve cognitive function as well, so and attention and focus. Also, your brain does crazy stuff. I won't go into that now, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening in your brain, like the changing in your grey matter in your brain, where actually where your emotions, your learning, your memory, all that sort of stuff, there's actually growth and change in that. And then there's also a reduction in all the stuff to do with stress and that, and the calming of your amygdala. You heard of the amygdala? I learned about that too. It's this little part in the brain that sort of triggers the fight or flight part. And one of the psychologists and great big researcher, Daniel Goleman, he's saying that just 10 minutes a day, just a regular 10-minute practice of meditation a day, it's amazing how it just calms the amygdala. And not only does it do it when you do it, but it's just like this accumulative effect, and that's what I think we sort of miss out in the Western. We're after this quick fix, but if we persevere and pursue with things, like once I started to hit 40, I started to realize, shit, I need to change a few things. So it's not just every fad, but okay, what can I do now that's going to help improve the quality of my life physically and emotionally, that I can sustain for the next X amount of years that I'm going to be alive. And so that's a sort of approach that you take. And then when you do this, it's every day, I have my smoothie with turmeric every day, and it's like, people think, oh, turmeric's the latest thing, you got to have some turmeric, but it's this build up and build up and build up of stuff that happens in your body. It's all the stuff that happens on a regular basis. And the same with meditation. It's a practice that you take on and you cultivate it in your life. So just 10 minutes. So how do I do mindfulness meditation? Let's have a go. So we're going to do a little 10-minute guided meditation session. So all you need to do is just sit comfortably. Preferably, if you can, sit upright. Try to get your feet on the floor, like I just got them up here. We're just going to go for 10 minutes. I'll put my timer on actually. It's got some beautiful little bells to let us know when 10 minutes is up. Now, like I know this meditation comes from the Buddhist tradition. There's a lot of, sitting cross-legged, and I learned to do that because I thought it's something I should learn. But I mostly sit on a chair. I still occasionally in the morning just lay in bed and do half an hour in bed. Would be asked getting out of bed, kind of sit down. But most of the time I just sit. I got actually a recliner that I sit. It's extremely comfortable, but it actually has a really nice posture to it. I actually like sitting in it, and I've had some pretty deep experiences, so I enjoy it. But I do have like a meditation cushion. I've built myself a meditation stool and all the bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, like if you sit on a chair, if you need to lie down, like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The main thing is you just get yourself aware and alert. That's why lying down is probably not the best thing, because your body just thinks, oh, it's time for sleep. So you just want to drift off. So, but if you can sort of sit up, like sometimes I'll just sit up in bed, but most of the times I'll get out, go into my lounge room and just spend some time out there. And if you can incorporate 10 minutes a day, I reckon you'll see some pretty incredible changes happen. And then the thing is, you think of it, oh man, this is time for me. I don't even have to get out and get changed and go to the gym. This is just, I just walk out in your pajamas and go sit down somewhere. That's all you do. It's about as easy as it can get, and even if you can't do 10 minutes, it's like, I'm just going to stop for a minute or two. And the funny thing is, after a minute or two, I want to keep going. This is really good. You start to feel good, You start to realize, things are getting a little bit quieter in the mind, and it preps you for the day. And you can do it throughout the day. So what we're going to do, we'll just do a little guided meditation. I'll take you on a little bit of a journey about focusing and concentrating just on our breath. The breath becomes, a lot of times they talk about the breath, and it becomes like what they call like an anchor, or a place of sort of where you keep coming back to when you get distracted in your mind, in your meditation. And I'll talk you through it, and we'll go through a bit of a guided meditation, and we'll have a quick chat about it, and then we'll hear some roofing instructions from the king of roofing. So I'll hit the start, and then we'll hear some chimes in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Is anyone opposed to closing that window? Because we're about to take deep breaths, and I've already inhaled like 2 bugs.
Shut the window.
It's
It's good.
beautiful.
Yeah, the bugs are just passing you and coming straight over here.
That would watch the thousand fly.
So try and just get into a relaxed position where you feel comfortable. You can close your eyes, or if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can just sort of lower your gaze, just get just a soft gaze, and just get to a place, and we'll just take in just a few deep breaths in through your nose, just out through your mouth or through your nose. If your nose is blocked, you can breathe through your mouth. Just deep breaths in your own time. Now just let your breathing just settle into its own rhythm. Don't have to force it. You don't want to be thinking about how you're breathing. Just get into a nice rhythm. As you're breathing, pay attention to your breath. What's happening with your breath? Where can you feel the breath? might feel a cool sensation as you breathe in through your nose, and a bit warmer on the way out. You might sense the cool breeze in the top of your lip. Just bring your attention and just be aware of what's happening in that, just every breath. You might want to even focus on your rising of your belly, in and out, or the rise and fall of your chest. Just bring your attention and your awareness to just one part of your body there that's associated with your breath. Yeah, you might find yourself thoughts just wandering, thinking about what you want to have for dinner maybe. What do you need to pick up on the way home? Something that happened at work. Just let them go. You don't have to run with those stories. Just bring your attention back to your breath. If you're struggling to concentrate, you might just want to, just in your mind, in your head, just think, breathing in, breathing out. In, out. It's just a good little concentration activity that you can do, exercise you can do. Helps you keep focus on the breath. And what we want to do is I'm just going to take you through a bit of a guided meditation just on different parts of your body. You might not feel comfortable or not like focusing on the breath. It's what they call like a body scan. We're just going to start from our heads, just bring our attention to different parts in our body and just being aware of what we can feel there. Might be pleasant, unpleasant, might be nothing. This is a good little calming and relaxing exercise you can do, part of your meditation practice. Just start with the top of your head. Just sense what's happening there. Might be some tingling, itchy scalp. No need to run with the story, no need to think about the chemist you got to go to get some creams or the doctor's visit. Just be with it, it's there, let it go. Just feel it relax, top of your head. Just bring your attention down to your forehead and your eyebrows. And just soften those. Just let them relax. Just sense them relaxing. If you find your mind wandering again, just bring it back to that body part, or you can just bring it back to the breath again. Just feel your eyes start to relax. Just soften your eyes. Your jaw, your mouth, cheeks, just let them relax, soften. Back of your neck. Shoulders. Just let your shoulders soften and relax. A lot of tension gets held in the shoulders. Just bring your attention to just even your left arm. Just sensing it being there. How often do you bring your attention to your arm and really just concentrate on your arm? Or your hands? Where are your hands? Are they touching the other hand, or are they on your leg? Just that sensation. Might be hot, cold, warm. Now your right arm, your left arm, whichever one you did, swap over and just follow that sensation down your arm to your elbow, your forearm, again to your hand, and your fingers, your fingertips. Your back, just let that tension just release that in your back, soften your back, let it go. In your chest, feel the rising of your breath. Feel your seat bones sitting on that seat, your legs, your feet touching the ground. And let's just bring our attention back to our breath. And we'll just sit there. Just focus on your breath, wherever it's on your belly, your chest, your nose. If your mind wanders, just bring it back to the breath. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and come aware of the bright light. You haven't been sleeping enough, have you, Carlin? It doesn't matter if you feel tired, sleepy, it's fine. It's your body just telling you need to rest. I was just on a 7-day retreat and I did a lot of sleeping on that. I wagged a lot of the meditation sessions to go to sleep because I just needed to sleep. So how'd you feel?